Hey, what's up you guys? Nick here. For those of you who are new to the channel, I'm a professional photographer. I've been shooting professionally for about 2 years, though I have been shooting since high school, which is about 15 or 16 years ago now. And for those of you who are returning, thank you guys so much for checking out another video. So let's talk about ISO. ISO is the sensitivity of your sensor or your film. That's it. No, that's actually not it. ISO is extremely important in photography. ISO a lot of the times is your Hail Mary, your last ditch for proper exposure. And what I mean by that is, let's say we've talked about f-stop. You have your f-stop set. Let's say you have it set at f1.8 or f2.2 or something along those lines, so you get your bokeh effect. You have your shutter speed set, but you didn't bring a tripod, so you can't bring your shutter speed any slower to allow more light in. So what do? You adjust your ISO. ISO, like I said a little bit ago, is your sensitivity of your sensor or your film. So a lot of the times the standard ISO in the studio setting when I'm in the studio is 100 ISO. And I can adjust the lights and everything to match my settings based on that. But if you're shooting street or you're shooting landscape or anything along those lines, ISO really is your Hail Mary. Now, just like the other two things we discussed, ISO is not end-all be-all only exposure. ISO can be used to create purposeful underexposures or purposeful overexposures when you have your shutter and your f-stop set right where you want them. Now, I'm going to show some examples of what I mean by that, and you can use ISO just like we used f-stop and just like we used shutter speed, where it's not just in an exposure setting. You can use it very, very much for your artistic style to create. And like the last videos, I'm going to show you guys an exercise that I set up. Now, the exercise I set up this time around was with a candle, and I had 2 bottles on either side of it, as well as my Kodak Pocket Camera 1 behind it, to give you guys an idea of how you can create certain artistic feelings or certain drama in your photography. So for this exercise with the candle, I chose very specific parameters. I was shooting at f1.8 in every single one of these photos, and I was shooting at 1/80th of a second in every one of these photos. The reason I chose 1/80th of a second is because, as we discussed in our last video, is you didn't want to shoot below your lens. Now, I was shooting with a crop sensor camera, so a 50mm is about 85mm, so f180. We were shooting on a tripod, so I could get the same photo every single time and only adjust the ISO. So we actually started at 1 ISO, and as you can see at 1 ISO, the candles, you can see everything else is pretty dark. It's really underexposed. My infometer was showing that it was underexposed, but you can see the candles, you can see a little bit of the light. So from 1 ISO, we're going to jump up to the high end, which was ISO 12,800. And as you can see, everything's really bright, it's overlit, it's very overexposed. Those are the two extremes that we have using the ISO, going from 100 to going to 12,800, which is an 8-stop difference. So we stopped it up 8 times, and that's the brightness difference. Now, there are a lot of images in there that can tell a different story based on just changing your ISO. The shutter speed stays the same, the f-stop stays the change, but the mood, the drama, and the story I'm conveying change based simply on changing the ISO in this case. So we're actually going to go through all those photos right now. So this one was at 100 ISO. Now, if we stop up to 200 ISO, which means we double the amount of light, or at least double the sensitivity of the sensor, it gets a little bit brighter. Now, if we jump from 200 ISO to 400 ISO, again, it gets brighter. It gets twice as bright as it was before. And as you can see, the mood of these photos changes based on that. So if we jump from 400 to 800, again, the image gets brighter, there's more exposure going on, so the camera gets lit up a little bit more, the bottles are lit up a little bit more, the candle seems brighter. If we jump from 8 to 1600 ISO, again, we see that same change. The mood from 1600 ISO back to 200 ISO is completely different. Now, if we move from 1600 to 3200, again, it gets brighter, the story changes, the drama in the photo changes, the mood of the photo changes. From 3200, we stop up to 6400. And again, it's overexposed now, it's super bright, it almost is soft is how bright it is. And at 6400, we'll jump up to 12,800, which was that other image I showed you on the far spectrum. It's overexposed, it's very bright, it tells a different story than we had at 100 ISO. How does that affect your photography practically, artistically, for the story you tell? So the first image I'm going to show is of Holly. Now we did this shoot right before I did that vlog, and I'll post that right there. We did 4 different outfits in 4 hours approximately. It was a lot of fun, but as you can see with the candlelight, because if you're shooting in the studio, we generally get candles out. It makes the shoot more fun. But as you can see, there's a lot of contrast there. There's her face that's lit up, but there's black. It's dark in the background. The image is underexposed. I underexposed it intentionally to get that effect. The shadows are harsher compared to what is lit up, and it has kind of a different kind of drama than, let's say, this image of Valerie. Now, this image of Valerie, I intentionally overexposed. And the reason I did that is contrary to what we did with Holly, where we were creating a lot of contrast and a lot of that mood that we were trying to set. In this image here, I wanted it kind of washed out. So there's not a lot of contrast. It's not really sharp. It's kind of a softer image. But that's the look we were going for in that particular shoot. And I was able to achieve that just by adjusting the amount of exposure I was doing, whether I was overexposing or underexposing. Now let's look at a properly exposed image. There is contrast there, there is drama there, and there's a story being told. It's not as dramatic as if you had washed it out using overexposure, or if you had created a lot of contrast by underexposing the image. So it's not as dramatic as, say, those 2 images, but it has a different mood to it. It has a different feeling to it than those images do. So while ISO is an important tool in exposure and it can be used as that Hail Mary, you can still use ISO to create art, to tell the story that you want to tell and to get across what you want to get across when taking an image and sharing it. So thank you guys again so much. Hit up my social medias, I'll link them below. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you enjoyed the video, please share it. Thanks again so much. You guys have a wonderful night. And next week we're going to do the shooting in manual mode and the light triangle video, where we put all of this together so that you can start shooting manual mode and be taking the best photos that you can take. Thank you again. You guys have a great night, and I'll see you later.